The cold metal floor pressed against Jake Morrison's knees as he sat in the small cell. Blood dripped from a cut above his left eye, leaving dark spots on the gray surface below. His uniform was torn in 3 places, and his hands were bound, behind his back with energy shackles that glowed blue in the dim light. But Jake's face showed no fear, no anger, no pain. He simply stared straight ahead at the wall. The Zephyrian flagship hummed around him with alien sounds. Strange voices spoke in clicking languages through the walls. Heavy footsteps echoed in the corridors outside his cell. Jake had been on this ship for 2 hours now, and he had not spoken a single word since they dragged him from his shuttle. Admiral Vextar stood outside the energy barrier that kept Jake trapped. The alien commander was tall, nearly 8 feet, with dark blue skin that looked like polished stone. His forearms ended in clawed hands, and his yellow eyes studied the human with growing confusion. Behind him stood 3 other Zephyrians, all wearing the black and silver uniforms of the Fleet Command. "This is strange," said Commander Zilrith, the ship's head of security. Her voice sounded like grinding metal. "All humans scream when we capture them. They beg, they cry, they offer us information. But this one does nothing." Admiral Vextar's tail swished behind him, a sign of irritation among his people. "Perhaps he is damaged. Check his mind again." Dr. Kexman, the ship's medical officer, stepped forward. She held a small device that glowed green. "I have scanned him 4 times, Admiral. His brain shows normal activity. He is not unconscious. He is not in shock. He is simply choosing not to speak." "Choosing," Vextar repeated the word like it tasted bad. "Humans do not choose anything when they are captured. They are weak creatures who break easily." Jake's eyes moved slightly. For just a moment, he looked at the Admiral. Then his gaze returned to the wall. The movement was so small that only Vextar noticed it. The alien commander felt something cold touch his spine. "Try the pain device again," Vextar ordered. Commander Zilrith activated a control panel beside the cell. Blue energy flowed through the floor where Jake sat. The human's body went rigid as electricity coursed through him. His jaw clenched tight, and his breathing became faster. But still he made no sound. After 10 seconds, the energy stopped. Jake's body relaxed. He took 3 deep breaths and returned to his calm stare. A small smile might have touched the corner of his mouth, but it was gone so quickly that none of the aliens were sure they saw it. "Impossible," whispered Sub-Commander Yildek, the youngest of the group. "No creature can resist the pain device without making noise. Run a full medical scan," Vextar demanded. "Check for implants, for drugs, for anything that might explain." "This," Dr. Kexman ran her scanner over Jake's body from head to toe. The device beeped and hummed as it worked. "No implants, Admiral. No drugs in his system. No artificial devices of any kind. He's completely natural. Then why does he not speak?" "I do not know." The Admiral's claws clicked against the metal wall as he thought. In 40 years of commanding Zephyrian fleets, he had never seen anything like this. Humans were supposed to be the weakest of the spacefaring races. They had no natural weapons, no thick skin, no powerful muscles. They broke easily under pressure. Yet this one sat in his cell like a statue made of flesh. "What is your name?" Vextar asked directly. Jake did not respond. He did not even look at the Admiral. "Where are your fleet positions?" "Nothing." "How many ships does your colony have?" "Still nothing." "Do you know what we will do to your people if you do not answer?" Jake's breathing never changed. His heartbeat, visible on the medical scanner, remained steady. It was as if he could not hear the questions at all. Commander Zilrith stepped closer to the cell. "Admiral, perhaps we should try a different approach. Humans are social creatures. They need contact with others. Maybe isolation will break him." "He has only been here for 2 hours," Vextar replied. "But yes, let us try that. Remove all stimulation from his environment." The lights in the cell dimmed until only a faint glow remained. The sounds from the ship's corridors were blocked by sound dampeners. The temperature dropped to just above freezing. Jake was left in a world of gray silence and bitter cold, but even then, he did not speak. The Zephyrian officers moved to the bridge, leaving Jake alone with two guards. Through the ship's windows, they could see the human colony of New Haven floating in space. It was a small world, mostly farms and mining stations, with perhaps 50,000 people living on its surface. "Status report," Vextar demanded as he entered the bridge. "The human colony has not responded to our demands," reported the communications officer. "We sent the surrender message 6 hours ago. They have not even acknowledged that they received it." "Any sign of military activity?" "None, Admiral. No ships launching, no weapons powering up, no defensive systems coming online. It is as if the planet is empty." Vextar studied the tactical display. His fleet consisted of 12 heavy cruisers and his flagship, the Dread Star. Each ship carried enough firepower to level a city. Against a colony like New Haven, they were unstoppable. "Perhaps they are preparing to surrender?" suggested Commander Zilrith. "Then why do they not answer our calls?" No one had an answer for that. Hours passed. The Zephyrian crew went about their duties, but many found excuses to walk past Jake's cell. The human had not moved from his sitting position. He had not asked for food or water. He had not tried to escape or even test the strength of his bonds. He simply sat and stared at the wall with a patience that seemed inhuman. "It is not natural," one of the guards whispered to his partner. "No creature sits that still for so long." "Maybe humans are different than we thought," the other guard replied. "Different how?" "I do not know, but look at him. He is not afraid. He is not angry. He is not even curious about where we are going or what we plan to do. It is like he already knows." The first guard looked at Jake again. "Knows what?" "That is what worries me." On the bridge, Admiral Vextar grew more impatient with each passing hour. The human colony remained silent. Their prisoner remained silent. Even space itself seemed unusually quiet. Long-range sensors detected only the normal background radiation and a few small asteroid fields drifting through the system. "Send another message to the colony," he ordered. "Tell them they have 2 hours to surrender or we will begin bombing their cities," the message was transmitted. But like all the others, it received no response. Dr. Kexman approached the Admiral with a new report. "I have been studying the human's behavior, and I have a theory. Speak." "In nature, there are creatures that use stillness as a weapon. They remain motionless for hours, even days, waiting for the right moment to strike. The human may be employing a similar strategy. What kind of strategy? I am not sure. But his silence is not random. He is waiting for something." Admiral Vextar looked out at the stars. "Waiting for what? I do not know. But I think we will find out soon." In his cell, Jake Morrison continued his vigil. His eyes remained fixed on the wall, but his mind was busy. He was counting. Counting seconds, counting minutes, counting the footsteps of the guards, counting the rhythm of the ship's engines. Every detail was important. Every moment brought him closer to the time when his silence would end, but that time had not come yet. So he waited, as still as stone, as patient as the stars themselves. 6 hours had passed since Jake Morrison was brought aboard the Zephyrian flagship. The alien crew had expected him to break by now. Every other human they had ever captured started talking within the first hour. They begged for their lives. They offered secrets. They cried for their families. But Jake continued to sit in perfect silence. The ship's medical bay was busy with activity. Dr. Kexman had gathered her entire team to study the human prisoner. They had taken blood samples, brain scans, and full-body images. The results confused them more than ever. "His stress levels are actually decreasing," reported Nurse Valkim, staring at the readings on her screen. "When most creatures are captured, their bodies produce chemicals that cause fear and panic. But this human's body is producing the opposite chemicals. He's becoming calmer." Dr. Kexman examined the data herself. "This makes no sense. Look at his heart rate. It has dropped from 90 beats per minute to 60. His breathing is slower. His muscle tension is less. It is as if being captured has relaxed him." "Maybe he wants to be here," suggested medical technician Rodas. "Why would any creature want to be captured?" "I do not know. but nothing else explains this behavior. Meanwhile, in the cell, Jake had not moved from his sitting position. His hands were still bound behind his back. The energy shackles had left red marks on his wrists, but his face showed no sign of discomfort. The guards had changed shifts twice, but Jake seemed unaware of their presence. Guard Captain Deximer had been watching the human for 3 hours. He had seen many prisoners in his career, but none like this one. "It is not natural," he told his partner. "No creature can sit that still for so long without going insane." "Maybe he is insane," Guard Lieutenant Pickstar replied. "No, look at his eyes. They are clear, alert. He is aware of everything around him." "Then why does he not speak? That is what frightens me." On the bridge, Admiral Vexstar was growing more frustrated by the hour. His fleet had been in position around the human colony for 8 hours now. The colony should have surrendered immediately when they saw the size of his force. Instead, they had gone completely dark. "Any response from the planet?" he asked his communications officer. "None, Admiral. No radio signals, no transmissions. Of any kind. Even their normal civilian communications have stopped. What about ship movements?" "Nothing. No launches, no orbital traffic, no defensive positions being taken." Admiral Vexstar studied the tactical display. New Haven looked like a dead world. The cities were dark. The space stations were quiet. Even the mining operations had stopped. It was as if 50,000 humans had simply vanished. "Launch a reconnaissance drone," he ordered. "I want to see what is happening on that planet." The drone was a small, fast ship designed for gathering information. It shot away from the fleet toward New Haven, its cameras and sensors recording everything. Within an hour, it reached the planet's atmosphere and began sending back images. The pictures showed empty streets, abandoned buildings, silent factories, but something was wrong with the emptiness. The cities looked too clean, too organized. When people flee in panic, they leave behind chaos. They drop things, they leave doors open, they abandon vehicles in the streets, but New Haven cities looked like everyone had simply walked away in an orderly fashion. Cars were parked properly. Buildings were locked, streets were clean. It was the kind of emptiness that comes from careful planning, not panicked flight. "This is impossible," said Commander Zilrith, studying the images. "Where did they all go?" "Maybe they evacuated too." "Underground shelters?" suggested Sub-Commander Yildek. "Then why do the thermal scans show no life signs underground either?" No one had an answer. Admiral Vexstar felt a cold feeling in his stomach. In his 40 years of commanding fleets, he had conquered dozens of worlds. He knew how planets looked when they were about to surrender. He knew how they looked when they were preparing to fight. But he had never seen anything like this. "Send the drone deeper," he ordered. "I want to see inside those buildings." The drone flew lower, using its sensors to peer through walls and windows. The images it sent back were even more disturbing. The buildings were not empty. They were full of equipment, supplies, and personal belongings. But no people. It was as if the entire population had been teleported away, leaving everything else behind. "Admiral," called the navigation officer, "we are detecting unusual readings from the edge of the system." "What kind of readings?" "Gravitational anomalies." "Small ones, but there are many of them." Vexstar moved to the navigation station. The display showed dozens of tiny dots scattered throughout the star system. Each dot represented a gravitational disturbance, the kind caused by large objects moving through space. "Could they be asteroids?" he asked. "Possible, but unlikely. They are too evenly distributed. And they are moving in patterns that do not match natural drift. Show me." The display zoomed out to show the entire star system. The dots were everywhere, forming loose clusters and lines that stretched for millions of kilometers. To Admiral Vexstar's trained eye, they looked almost like military formations. "How long have these been there?" he asked. "Unknown, Admiral. We only noticed them when we began detailed scans of the system." "Are they ships?" "We cannot tell. They are too small for our long-range sensors to identify clearly. But they are definitely artificial objects." Admiral Vextar felt the cold feeling in his stomach grow stronger. He had walked into this system expecting to find a weak human colony ready to surrender. Instead, he found empty planets and mysterious objects scattered through space. And in his cell, a human prisoner who refused to speak. "Double the watch on the human," he ordered. "And send more probes to investigate those gravitational anomalies." "Yes, Admiral." As the orders were carried out, Jake Morrison continued his silent vigil. But now the guards noticed something new about his behavior. Every few minutes he would tilt his head slightly, as if listening to something they could not hear. His eyes would focus on different parts of the cell, studying the walls, the ceiling, the floor. "He is mapping the ship," Guard Captain Deximer realized. "He is learning the layout. For what purpose? I do not know. But he is not just sitting there, he is working." The realization sent a chill through the guard station. They had thought the human was broken, defeated, or in shock. But he was actually studying them, learning their routines, understanding their ship. The question was, why? Dr. Kexman arrived at the cell with a new device. "I want to try something," she told the guards. "This machine can detect electrical activity in the brain. It will tell us what the human is thinking about." She activated the device and pointed it at Jake. The screen showed a complex pattern of brain waves, but the patterns were unlike anything in her medical database. "His mind is extremely active," she reported. "Much more active than a normal human. Brain should be. He is not just thinking, he is calculating, processing huge amounts of information." "What kind of information?" "I cannot tell. But his brain is working harder than the computer cores on this ship." The guards looked at Jake with new fear. They had been thinking of him as a broken prisoner. But maybe he was something else entirely. Maybe he was a weapon they did not understand. As the hours passed, more strange reports came in from around the ship. Several crew members reported feeling watched even when they were alone. Others said they heard sounds in the walls, like metal moving or voices whispering. The ship's computer reported minor malfunctions in systems throughout the vessel. "It is the human," whispered some of the crew. "He is doing something to our ship." "Impossible," others replied. "He is locked in a cell. He cannot even move." But the whispers grew louder as the night went on. And in his cell, Jake Morrison continued his patient count of seconds, minutes and hours, waiting for the moment when his silence would finally end. 9 hours had passed since Jake Morrison was captured. The Zephyrian flagship felt different now. The crew moved through the corridors with nervous energy. Conversations stopped when officers approached. Even the ship's computer seemed to be working slower than usual. Admiral Vextar stood in his private quarters, staring out at the stars. His reflection in the window showed the exhaustion he felt. In all his years of commanding fleets, he had never encountered anything like this. The human colony that would not respond, the prisoner who would not speak. The mysterious objects scattered throughout the system. A soft chime announced a visitor. Commander Zilrith entered the room, her usually confident posture showing signs of strain. "Admiral, I have troubling news," she said. "More problems?" "We have lost contact with the patrol ships we sent to investigate the gravitational anomalies. All 3 ships stopped responding 2 hours ago." Vextar turned from the window. "What were their last transmissions?" "Each ship reported the same thing. They found the anomalies, but when they got close, their sensors could not identify what they were looking at. Then their communications cut out. System failures? Unknown. But Admiral, there is something else. The objects are moving." "Moving how?" "They are slowly forming a pattern around our fleet. It is subtle, but our navigation computers have detected the change. Whatever those objects are, they are positioning themselves in a sphere around us." Admiral Vextar felt his blood turn cold. How long until they complete this sphere? "At their current rate of movement, approximately 3 more hours, and we still do not know what they are?" "No, Admiral. But I have ordered all ships to battle stations." "Good. What about the human prisoner?" Commander Zilrith's expression grew even more troubled. "That is another problem. The crew is starting to believe he is causing these events. That is impossible. He is locked in a cell. I know, Admiral. But strange things keep happening. This morning, 3 crew members reported seeing him in different parts of the ship, even though the guards confirm he never left his cell. 2. Engineers found messages written in human symbols on their computer screens, but the security cameras show no one entered those rooms. System glitches. Maybe, but the crew is frightened. They think the human has some kind of power we do not understand. Admiral Vexstar walked to his desk and activated a communication panel. Dr. Kexman, report to my quarters immediately. Within minutes, the ship's chief medical officer arrived. Her usually calm demeanor showed cracks of stress. Doctor, I need to know everything about the human prisoner. Is he somehow affecting our ship? Dr. Kexman consulted her datapad. Admiral, what I have discovered about this human defies explanation. His brain activity has increased by 40% since we captured him. He is processing information at rates that should be impossible for any biological creature. What kind of information? I cannot tell, but his neural patterns suggest he is performing complex calculations, analyzing vast amounts of data, and somehow communicating with something or someone. Communicating how? We have blocked all signals from his cell. I do not know. But the patterns are definitely those of communication. He is receiving information and sending responses, all without any external device. Admiral Vexstar felt the cold feeling in his stomach spread through his entire body. Are you saying he is telepathic? Humans are not supposed to be telepathic. But this one is doing something that looks very similar. Commander Zora stepped forward. Admiral, I recommend we eliminate the prisoner immediately. He is clearly a threat we do not understand. No, Vexstar replied immediately. He is our only source of information about what is happening. If we kill him, we may never understand what we are facing. But Admiral, the decision is made. Double the guards on his cell, but do not harm him. After the officers left, Admiral Vexstar returned to his window. The stars looked the same as always, but now they seemed to be watching him. He activated his personal communication device and sent a message to his superiors at Zephyrian Command. This is Admiral Vexstar of the 7th Fleet. I am requesting immediate reinforcements at the New Haven system. We may have encountered a human threat beyond our current understanding. Recommend sending at least 3 additional battle fleets. The response came back within an hour. Request denied. You have 12 heavy cruisers and a flagship. That is more than enough firepower to handle 1 human colony. Complete your mission. Vexstar stared at the message. His superiors did not understand. They thought he was dealing with a simple colonial rebellion. They had no idea what was really happening here. In the cell, Jake Morrison had not moved from his sitting position. But now his behavior was even more disturbing to the guards. His eyes moved constantly, tracking things they could not see. His lips moved silently, as if he were having conversations with invisible people. He is talking to someone, Guard Captain Deximer whispered to his partner. Who? I do not know, but look at his facial expressions. He is listening to responses. Someone is talking back to him. The guards watched in growing fear as Jake's head tilted in different directions, his eyes focusing on empty air. Sometimes he would nod slightly, as if agreeing with something. Other times he would shake his head, as if disagreeing. Should we report this to the Admiral? Asked Guard Lieutenant Pickstar. Report what? That the human is talking to ghosts? Maybe they are not ghosts. The 2 guards looked at each other with understanding. If Jake was communicating with someone, and that someone was not visible, then they were dealing with technology beyond their comprehension. Meanwhile, in the engine room, Chief Engineer Morcane was dealing with problems of his own. The ship's main computer had been acting strangely all day. Systems were shutting down and restarting for no apparent reason. Diagnostic programs were running on their own. Most disturbing of all, the computer kept accessing files about human technology and psychology. It is as if something is learning about us, he told his assistant. The computer is studying our weaknesses. Could it be a virus? I have run every security program we have. No virus is detected. But something is definitely in our system. The assistant looked nervous. Do you think it has something to do with the human prisoner? I do not know. But the problem started after we brought him aboard. As the day wore on, the reports of strange events multiplied. Crew members found their personal belongings moved to different locations. Food synthesizers produced meals no one had ordered. The ship's artificial gravity fluctuated in random patterns, but the most disturbing report came from the communication center. The officers there reported that their equipment was sending signals on its own, transmitting data in directions they had not programmed. What kind of data? Admiral Vextar demanded. Ship specifications, crew numbers, weapons capabilities, everything. About our fleet, the communication officer replied. It is as if someone is downloading our entire military database. To where? Unknown, Admiral. The signals are too weak to trace. Admiral Vextar felt the situation slipping out of his control. His fleet was trapped in a system full of unknown objects. His ship was malfunctioning in ways that defied explanation. His crew was terrified of a prisoner who had not spoken a single word. Sir, called the navigation officer, the gravitational anomalies have accelerated their movement. They will complete their formation around us in 1 hour instead of 3. All ships prepare for immediate departure, Vextar ordered. We are leaving this system. Admiral, the navigation computers are not responding to course changes, reported the helm officer. We cannot alter our position. What do you mean we cannot? Alter our position? The computers accept the commands, but the engines do not respond. We are locked in place. Admiral Vextar realized the horrible truth. They were not just trapped in the system. They were trapped by the system. Whatever was happening, it had been planned from the beginning. The human colony had not fled. They had prepared. And Jake Morrison was not their prisoner. He was their coordinator. 11 hours and 45 minutes had passed since Jake Morrison was brought aboard the Zephyrian flagship. The alien crew was close to panic. Their ship would not obey their commands. Their fleet was surrounded by unknown objects. And their prisoner still had not spoken a single word. Admiral Vextar stood in the command center, watching his officers struggle with systems that no longer worked properly. The main display showed their fleet trapped in the center of a perfect sphere made of thousands of small objects. Each object was about the size of a fighter craft, but their sensors could not identify what they were made of or how they moved. Engineering. Report, he demanded. Chief Engineer Morcane looked up from his control panel with exhausted eyes. Admiral, I have never seen anything like this. Our computer systems are completely compromised. Something is controlling them, but I cannot find the source. What about manual controls? Also affected. When we try to manually start the engines, they run for a few seconds and then shut down. It is as if the ship itself is refusing to obey us. And the weapons? The same. We can charge the energy cannons, but they will not fire. The missile launchers will not open. Even the defensive shields are operating at only 30% power. Admiral Vextar felt his command slipping away. In his military career, he had faced enemy fleets, space pirates, and natural disasters. But he had never been made helpless by his own ship. Sir, called the communication officer, we are receiving a transmission from the human colony. Put it through. The main screen changed to show a human woman sitting in what appeared to be a command center. She was middle-aged with short gray hair and calm blue eyes. Behind her, dozens of humans worked at computer stations. Admiral Vextar, she said in perfect Zephyrian language. My name is Captain Lisa Hayes of the New Haven Defense Force. I believe you have something that belongs to us. Your planet was supposed to surrender? Vextar replied. We gave you clear demands. We received your demands. We chose not to accept them. Your colony has no military. You have no defenses. Your people cannot possibly resist a Zephyrian fleet. Captain Hayes smiled. You are correct. We have no military in the traditional sense, but we have something better. We have preparation. What are you talking about? Admiral, did you really think we did not know you were coming? Your fleet has been tracked since you left Zephyrian space 3 weeks ago. We have been preparing for this moment for a very long time. On the screen behind Captain Hayes, Vexstar could see tactical displays showing the exact positions of every ship in his fleet. The humans knew more about his formation than his own officers did. Impossible, he said. You have no long-range sensors capable of tracking our ships. You are right, we do not. But we have friends who do. The display changed to show a star map. Red dots appeared throughout the galaxy, each one representing a human colony. Lines connected the dots, forming a network that spanned thousands of light years. Every human settlement is connected, Admiral. When your fleet left your home system, the colonies along your path warned us. We had 3 weeks to prepare. Admiral Vexstar stared at the map. There were hundreds of red dots, far more than Zephyrian intelligence had estimated. How many colonies do you have? Enough, and they are all connected. When you attack one human settlement, you attack all of them. You are bluffing. Humans are not capable of this level of coordination. Are we not? Tell me, Admiral, how is Lieutenant Commander Morrison doing? The question hit Vexstar like a physical blow. How do you know his name? Because he has been talking to us for the past 12 hours. He has not spoken a single word. Not with his voice, no. But humans have other ways of communicating. Ways your people have never learned to detect. On the screen, Captain Hayes touched a control panel. Jake, can you hear me? In his cell, Jake Morrison lifted his head for the first time in hours. His eyes focused on the wall, and for the first time since his capture, he spoke. I can hear you, Captain. The words were so quiet that only the guards closest to his cell heard them. But the effect was immediate. Both guards stepped back in shock. Report, Jake said, his voice calm and steady. All systems are in place, Captain Hayes replied through the ship's communication system. We are ready to proceed. Understood. Beginning final phase. Admiral Vexstar looked between the screen and the cell where Jake sat. How is this possible? We blocked all communications to his cell. Admiral, you blocked radio waves, electronic signals, and quantum transmissions. But you never thought to block something much simpler. What? Sound. The explanation hit him like a revelation. The ship's hull, exactly. Metal conducts vibrations very well. Jake has been sending messages by tapping patterns on the walls of his cell. The vibrations travel through your ship's structure and are picked up by sensors we placed on your hull. When did you place sensors on our hull? 3 days ago, when your fleet stopped at the Kilo station for supplies. Our people have been working there for years. Admiral Vexstar remembered the stop at Kilo station. It was a neutral trading post where ships from many races came to resupply. His crew had taken shore leave there, buying food and equipment from the local merchants. You have been planning this for years, he said. We have been planning for the possibility of Zephyrian aggression since the first human colony was established. We knew that eventually someone would try to conquer us. We decided to be ready, but you are just farmers and miners. You have no military training. That is where you are wrong, Admiral. We may be farmers and miners now, but many of us served in the human military before we came to the colonies. We know how to fight. We also know how to think. The display changed again, showing the objects surrounding the Zephyrian fleet. As they watched, the objects began to change shape. What had appeared to be simple metal spheres unfolded into complex spacecraft. Each one was smaller than a Zephyrian cruiser, but there were thousands of them. What are those? Vexstar asked. Converted civilian ships. Mining vessels, cargo haulers, passenger transports, construction equipment. Anything that could be fitted. With engines and weapons. Your intelligence report said we had no military fleet. You were right. But you never asked about our civilian fleet. Civilian ships cannot stand against military vessels. You are right again. One civilian ship cannot stand against a military cruiser, but 1,000 civilian ships can. Admiral Vexstar looked at the tactical display. His 12 cruisers and flagship were surrounded by over 3,000 human vessels. Even if each human ship was only 1/10 as powerful as a Zephyrian cruiser, They were still outnumbered by more than 200 to 1. "You cannot hope to win this battle," he said. "My ships have better armor, better shields, better weapons. We do not need to win a battle, Admiral. We just need to make sure you lose." "What do you mean? How much fuel do your ships carry?" The question confused him. "Enough for 3 months of operations." "And how much food?" "The same. And how much ammunition?" "Admiral," Chief Engineer Morcane interrupted, "I see where this is going. If we cannot leave the system, we will eventually run out of supplies." "Exactly," Captain Hayes said. "We do not need to destroy your fleet. We just need to keep you here until you run out of resources. Then you will surrender to us. My government will send more ships to rescue us. Will they? How will they find you?" "Your communications are being blocked. And even if they do find you, they will face the same situation. We can do this as many times as necessary." Admiral Vexstar realized the full scope of the trap. The humans had not just prepared for one battle. They had prepared for a war of attrition that could last for years. "What do you want?" he asked. "We want you to leave our system and never return. We want a promise that Zephyrian forces will not attack human colonies. And we want you to spread the word to other races that humans are not as helpless as they appear. And if I refuse, then you will sit in this system until your crews start dying of starvation." "The choice is yours, Admiral." In his cell, Jake Morrison stood up for the first time in nearly 12 hours. He walked to the energy barrier that kept him trapped and looked directly at the camera that was recording him. "Admiral," he said, his voice carrying clearly through the ship's communication system, "I think it is time we had a conversation." Jake Morrison walked slowly to the center of his cell. After 12 hours of perfect stillness, every movement he made seemed important. The guards watched him with fearful eyes. The cameras recorded every step. Throughout the ship, crew members stopped their work to listen to the communication feeds. Admiral Vexstar stood before the cell's energy barrier, his forearms tense with frustration and growing fear. Behind him, his senior officers waited in silence. The moment they had all been waiting for had finally arrived. The human was ready to speak. 12 hours, Jake said, his voice calm and clear. "That is how long it took my people to surround your fleet with enough firepower to turn your ships into metal dust." "You are bluffing," Admiral Vexstar replied. "Those are civilian ships. They cannot match our military vessels." Jake smiled for the first time since his capture. "Admiral, you still do not understand what you are facing. You see farmers and miners and think they are weak. But you forget that farmers know how to work the land, and miners know how to move mountains. When humans decide to fight, we do not just use weapons, we use everything," explain. "The ships surrounding you are not just converted civilian vessels. They are loaded with mining explosives, enough to crack open asteroids. Do you know what mining explosives can do to a starship?" Admiral Vexstar felt his blood turn cold. Mining explosives were designed to shatter solid rock. Against the hull of a starship, they would be devastating. "Even if you destroy our fleet," Vexstar said, "it will not save your colonies. More ships will come. Entire battle fleets will hunt down every human settlement. Will they?" Jake asked. "Tell me, Admiral, how many ships do you think humanity has?" "Our intelligence estimates perhaps 200 vessels across all your colonies." Jake laughed, and the sound sent chills through every Zephyrian on the ship. "Admiral, we have been in space for less than 50 years. In that time, we have built over 10,000 ships. Not all of them are warships, but every single one can be converted for battle when needed." "Impossible. Humans breed fast, Admiral. We build fast. We adapt fast. Your people have been in space for 1,000 years, but you have maybe 5,000 ships total. We already outnumber you 2 to 1, and every year that gap grows larger." "On the main screen," Captain Hayes nodded. "Jake is correct, Admiral. This is not just about one human colony. This is about the future of both our races. You can choose to be our enemies and face a war you cannot win, or you can choose to be our neighbors and live in peace. My government will never accept human terms, Admiral Vextar said. Then your government will face the consequences? Jake replied. But you, Admiral, you have a choice to make right now. You can order your fleet to surrender and leave this system peacefully. Or you can stay and watch your crews die slowly as your supplies run out. Admiral Vextar looked around his bridge. His officers were exhausted, frightened, and confused. His ship would not obey his commands. His fleet was trapped by an enemy he had underestimated completely. If I order a retreat, he said, my government will court-martial me for cowardice. And if you stay here, Jake said, your government will court-martial you for losing an entire fleet. Which would you prefer? The logic was undeniable. Either way, Admiral Vextar's military career was over. But if he retreated, at least his crews would live. What guarantees do I have that you will let us leave? He asked. The same guarantee we have always offered, Captain Hayes said from the screen. Humans keep their word. We do not attack those who do not attack us. Leave our territory, promise not to return, and you will be safe. And if other Zephyrian fleets come to this system, they will face the same choice you are facing now. Admiral. Vextar turned to his senior officers. Opinions? Commander Zilrith spoke first. Admiral, we are outnumbered and outmaneuvered. Our ships are not responding to commands. Continuing this confrontation serves no purpose. Sub-Commander Yildek nodded. The humans have demonstrated capabilities we did not know existed. We need to report this information to Zephyrian Command. Chief Engineer Morcane added, our systems are completely compromised. Even if we could fight, we cannot control our weapons effectively. Dr. Kexman looked at Jake through the cell barrier. Admiral, I have studied this human for 12 hours. He is not lying about their capabilities. Everything he has said has been proven true. Admiral Vextar felt the weight of command pressing down on him. In 40 years of military service, he had never faced a situation like this. He had been outhought, outplanned, and outmaneuvered by an enemy he had dismissed as primitive. Human, he said to Jake. If I agree to retreat, what message should I carry back to my government? Jake stepped closer to the energy barrier. Tell them that humans are no longer the weak species they once knew. Tell them we have grown strong, not just in numbers but in unity. Tell them that attacking one human colony means attacking all human colonies. And tell them that we prefer peace, but we are ready for war. And if they do not listen, then they will learn the same lesson you learned today. Humans do not give up. We do not surrender. We endure, we adapt, and we overcome. That is what makes us human. Admiral Vextar made his decision. Captain Hayes, he said to the screen, I will order my fleet to withdraw from this system, but I want assurance that no human ships will follow us. You have it, Captain Hayes replied. As soon as your fleet leaves our space, all pursuit will end, and the human prisoner? Jake will remain aboard your ship until you reach the edge of the system. Then you will release him to one of our escort vessels. Admiral Vextar nodded slowly. Agreed. He turned to his communication officer. Send a message to all ships in the fleet. We are withdrawing from the New Haven system immediately. All vessels are to prepare for departure. Sir, the navigation officer called out. Our engines are responding again. Jake smiled. My people are returning control of your systems. You will find everything working normally now. Within minutes, the Zephyrian fleet began to move. The thousands of human ships that had surrounded them remained in position, watching but not interfering. As the alien vessels reached the edge of the system, a small human shuttle approached the flagship. Admiral Vextar personally escorted Jake to the docking bay. As they walked through the corridors, crew members stopped to stare at the human who had changed everything with his silence. Human, Admiral Vextar said as they reached the shuttle. I must ask, how did you know your plan would work? Jake paused at the shuttle's entrance. Because, Admiral, humans have learned something that other races have not. The strongest weapon is not the one that can destroy the most, but the one that never has to be used. Today you learn to fear what humans can do. That fear will keep The peace better than any fleet, and if fear is not enough, then you will discover what humans do when peace is no longer possible. Jake stepped into the shuttle, and the door closed behind him. Admiral Vexstar watched as the small craft flew away toward the human fleet. As the Zephyrian ships entered hyperspace, Admiral Vexstar began composing his report to Zephyrian Command. He would tell them about the trap, about the human capabilities they had never suspected, about the quiet strength that had defeated his fleet without firing a single shot. But most of all, he would tell them about 12 hours of silence that had spoken louder than any weapon ever could. He would tell them that humanity was no longer the weak species they remembered, and he would recommend that all future contact with human colonies be diplomatic, not military. Behind them, in the New Haven system, Captain Hayes watched the alien fleet disappear into the void. The first test was over. Humanity had shown that they could defend themselves. Now the galaxy would have to decide how to respond to this new reality. The age of human weakness was over. The age of human strength had begun.